The nature of a man is a structure built upon conquest and protection. When that foundation collapses, and when all the bastions of honor, money, and status vanish into thin air, what remains is not a free soul, but a ruin laden with inferiority complexes. In the moment of being empty-handed, a man's decision to let go of everything, even the woman he loves most, is not an act of heartlessness. It is the final resistance of pride against the total collapse of individual identity. A man's connection to the world is often established through the concept of utility value. Since the dawn of humanity, the male role has been defined by the ability to hunt, gather, and protect. A man unable to provide or protect often views himself as a flawed entity in the social operating system. When everything is lost, the sense of usefulness is annihilated. At this point, love is no longer a peaceful harbor, but becomes a mirror reflecting one's own pathetic state. Looking into the eyes of the woman he loves, instead of finding comfort, the man only sees his own failure reflected in the most painful way. Love, in its normal state, is about giving. But when empty-handed, a man feels he has nothing left to give. His presence now consists only of receiving pity, receiving tolerance, and receiving patience. For an ego nurtured by the instinct of conquest, having to live on the emotional charity of others is a form of torture. They choose to leave not because they stop loving, but because they cannot bear becoming a burden. Letting go, therefore, is seen as a final noble gesture to preserve what little self-respect remains and to liberate the other person from a bleak future. Imagine a soldier returning from war with a broken body and a shattered soul. If he pushes his lover away, it is not because he finds joy in solitude, but because he does not want the one he loves to spend her entire youth caring for a ruin. Men who lose everything are the same. Career and wealth are their armor. When that armor is crushed, they feel naked and weak. Instinct tells them to retreat into the shadows, into a deep cave to lick their own wounds, rather than exposing that raggedness to the person they once promised to give the world to. Modern society further reinforces this prejudice. Men are taught that success is the sole measure of maturity. When they fail, they are stripped of the right to love in the way they desire. In the mind of a man at rock bottom, love becomes a debt. It is a debt of an unfulfilled promise, a debt of a prosperous life, and a debt of the pride that the woman should have had when standing beside him. When debts pile up and the ability to pay is zero, the only way to end the tragedy is to declare total bankruptcy, including terminating the relationship. This letting go also stems from a primal fear, which is the fear of having one's weakness seen through. A man can endure the world turning its back on him, but he can hardly bear the woman he loves seeing him cry, seeing him stuck, or seeing him directionless. Love demands honesty, but honesty in times of misery is the most expensive thing they dare not afford. They would rather have the other person hate them for a sudden departure than have them pity them for their incompetence. Hate is a powerful and equitable emotion, while pity is a kind of favor that erodes the character of the recipient. In reality, pushing a lover away when empty-handed is also a psychological defense mechanism. When a person is drowning, they tend to struggle. If someone tries to save them, the drowning person will unintentionally pull the savior under. A man who remains lucid in times of tribulation understands this well. He chooses to let go so the other person has a chance to swim to shore, where there are other steadier arms and more fertile lands. It is a harsh logic that says, because I love you, I have no right to keep you in the mud of my life. The difference between men and women in adversity lies in how they define connection. Women tend to weather the storm together, and they see love as the strength to rebuild. Conversely, men see love as the goal to strive for. When the goal is shaken, when the means such as money and status are lost, they feel they have lost the right to own that love. To them, love is not just an emotion, but a privilege that must be purchased through effort and achievement. Without results, they feel like a fraud if they continue to enjoy the warmth of another. This letting go must also be viewed from the perspective of extreme exhaustion. Losing everything means starting over from negative numbers. The battle to rebuild requires 100% energy and ruthlessness toward oneself. In that battle, love sometimes becomes a painful distraction. Every caring message and every word of encouragement from a lover reminds them of what they have lost and what they cannot yet provide. To focus on survival, they choose to sever all emotional nerves, accepting to become a cold machine. Letting go of love is a way for them not to be distracted between taking care of oneself and taking care of the other. Many call it cowardice. But looking deeper, it is a kind of desperate courage. It is the courage to face ultimate solitude. It is the courage to play the villain in the eyes of the one they love. Men often choose to leave in silence or for the most irrational reasons so the woman can easily give up. They want to create a distance large enough so the other person no longer feels regret. It is a paradoxical sacrifice and an extreme and bitter way of loving. The truth is, when a man loses everything, his world shrinks to the exact size of his shame. In that cramped space, there is no room for two. He needs the silence of nothingness to redefine himself. If the woman is still there, her presence unintentionally becomes a standard too high for him to reach in this brief fragment of his life. He lets go not because she is not good enough, but because he cannot stand the fact that he is no longer good enough for her. Ultimately, men are creatures programmed to conquer peaks. When falling into the abyss, their first instinct is to drive away those closest to them so they do not have to witness them covered in mud. Love at this time is like a luxury ornament on a tattered body. It does not make the person more beautiful, it only makes the raggedness more dismal. Ending a relationship while empty-handed for a man is often the final chapter of a total failure, but also the first page of an independent survival effort. They choose to let go to keep one last fragment of honor, which is the right to suffer and stand up alone. A man's love in times of wealth may be an umbrella of protection, but a man's love in times of misery is often liberation. Letting go is not the end, but the way they return freedom to the one they love, before they imprison themselves in the dark dungeon of reconstruction. It is a harsh truth, unadorned and unromantic, but as real as the nature of those who carry the burden of the stronger sex on their shoulders. In life, there are times when letting go is the strongest action a man can take. It is not because he no longer loves, but because he loves to the point of accepting being completely empty-handed, even in the heart of the one he loves most. Closing a chapter of life by leaving without explanation and without promise is the most definitive affirmation of an ego that refuses to accept subservience. It is the truth of those who value honor more than the very breath of personal happiness.